Hello there, Year 5. Hello, hello. I hope you're all well. I hope you're enjoying this sunny week. It's a little bit grey today, but it's been gorgeous over the weekend. Hope you've had a pleasant time. And I hope you're all looking forward to getting back to school next week. So things will be slightly different. I don't think I'll be seeing you again this term, sadly. So also I think because you're all going to be back together, this might be our last chance to have a little bit of a sing-song. So let's get ourselves ready and do our rhythmic canon that we did last week. Do you remember the left-right clap thing that we started? I'm going to stand up and do it so that you can see this. I'm going to move my microphone so I don't smash it to pieces. And I've got something else in the way of me today, but you'll find out what that is in a minute. So do you remember our triple time pattern that we were doing last week? What I want to do today is to see if we can make it into a little bit of a musical thing rather than just a series of claps and pats. But let's remind ourselves of how it goes first. Do you want to join in with me? See if you can. If not, I'll do it 2 times through and you can join in the second time. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2. And that's again. Left, right, left, right, kick. And left, right, tap. And left, right, tap. And left, right, tap, kick. Now it's the tap, clap. Tap, 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 right, and tap. Tap. Now it's the tricky bit. Right, left, click. Okay, I think we need to do that again. Are you ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Rest. Rest. Same pattern. And oops. Now the tricky one. Left, right, left, click. Did you notice I missed a click there? I got so confused with my scarf getting in the way. What a pickle. Did you manage it? Was it okay? Great. Okay, so if you think you know it really well, then brilliant. Let's move on. If you don't, go back and do that again. Right, so now what we want to do is to add some musicality to it. So I want to add some louds and softs. And if you remember from when we did our music Italiano, what do we call loud? Forte. And what do we call soft? Piano. Piano forte. Does that remind you of something? That's the old name for pianos. What we call pianos now were originally called pianofortes because when they were reinvented from sort of stringed instruments that plucked like harpsichords at the end of the 18th century, pianos were made in a way that the hammers would bang the strings, and that meant that you could bang them hard or you could bang them soft. So you could make them loud and quiet. Quiet and loud, piano forte. That's why it's called a piano, because it can play piano and forte. There you go, little fact. So what we're going to do is use our pianos and our fortes and our crescendos and our diminuendos in this now. I want to start piano. So we're going to do the first phrase quietly. That little pattern. Quiet. In the second phrase, the one that does this with the both togethers, I would like to have a crescendo. So by the end of that phrase, phrase 2, we are doing it forte, loud. Can we just try those 2 lines together? Piano, crescendo to loud in the second phrase. So just tap quietly, basically. Off we go. going to crescendo. It's quite hard to click loudly, isn't it? But your pats can get louder. How did that work? Good? Yes? Your thighs are going to burn by the end of this. Third phrase now. We've started loud, haven't we? So let's continue loud for about 2 bars. And then we're going to start to diminuendo through so that by the time we get to 2 bars before the end, we'll be quiet. Piano. So we're starting loud, stay loud, then gradually get quieter. So by the time we get to this bit, that's where we're getting quieter. Okay, so second half, tap, clap, tap, clap. That bit is loud. Off we go. Now start to get a little bit quieter. Did that work? Was it okay? From the beginning, quiet to loud, loud to quiet. You have the pattern. Ready? Off we go. Crescendo. Now we're really loud. Well done. Give your thighs a bit of a rub, it gets quite sore. Super, let's sit ourselves down. So, did you find it was quite difficult to do the crescendo without getting faster as well? That's something that can happen, that as we get excited because we're getting louder, we get faster as well. That doesn't work. Right, singing voices ready now. So, last week we had a really good go at Ebenezer Sneezer, what a silly man. Yes? Okay, so let's just remind ourselves of how it goes. And I want you to have, if you can, you maybe need to stop the video and come back again. You need to have your sheet music with you, just because I'd like you to read it as we're singing it. I want you to be able to see what those pitches look like when you're singing it in your voice, and what those new dotted rhythms look like. Do you remember? Dotted quavers and the little tiny ones with the little lines, they're called semi-quavers. They're worth half a quaver, half a te. So, should we start from the beginning? Let's sing the whole thing all the way through. That's our note. Ebenezer Sneezer. I'm not going to sing the rest of it because I want you to be able to do it with me. I want you to be able to work out what a scale feels like and sounds like before you even start to sing it. Okay, you ready? Off we go. Ebenezer Sneezer, what a silly man, walks upon his elbows every chance he can, dresses up in paper even when it pours, whistles Yankee Doodle every time he snores. Oh, Ebenezer, what a man. Yeah. Don't forget the yeah at the end. How was that? Did you need to listen to me singing, or could you work out what that scale of 8 notes was going to sound like before you even did it? Can we do it one more time? And then we're going to do something slightly different. Are you ready? Off we go. Ebenezer Sneezer, what a silly man, walks upon his elbows every chance he can, dresses up in paper even when it pours, whistles Yankee Doodle every time he snores. Oh, Ebenezer, what a man. Yeah. Fab job. Good. And when you remember to sit up nice and smart so that you can get those high notes up there. Very good. Now then, if you remember when we played it with the backing track on the CD last week, I stopped it before it did something different. We're going to try and do it as a canon this week. Woo! Do we remember what a canon is? Yes? Okay, so it's where you have a tune. We have this entire song, don't we? And it's where you can have two parts at least going at the same time, but singing at a different point during the song. So in this one, part one will start singing, Ebenezer Sneezer, what a silly man. And when they get to that point, the next group will start at the beginning. Okay, does that make sense? Great. Good. So what we're going to do is we are going to start the song. Yes? And I've got a keyboard part here, so we're going to follow the piano part. So we're going to start the song to start off with, and then you'll hear the second part coming in 2 bars later. When we get to the end of that verse, then we're going to swap those parts round. So the other part will start off and we will follow the piano sound, and we'll come in after the first part has gone, what a silly man. It'll be more obvious when you hear it. So basically, sing with me to start off with, along with the piano part on the keyboard track. So you ready? So we do it 2 times through. First of all, we start, and then the second time we come in afterwards, 2 bars later. Right, cross fingers it works. And you can hear it. Yeah. Going quite slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ebenezer Sneezer, what a silly man. Keep going. Walks upon his elbows every chance he can. Can you hear the other part? Dresses up in paper even when it pours. Whistles Yankee Doodle every time he snores. Oh, Ebenezer, what a man. So they're going to start. We're going to come in after Silly Man. Here we go. Ebenezer Sneezer, what a silly man. Walks upon his elbows every chance he can. Dresses up in paper even when it pours. Whistles Yankee Doodle every time he snores. Oh, Ebenezer, what a man. Marvellous. So, did you manage that? Was that nice and easy? Probably because I was singing with you. Now here's the challenge. We're going to do it one more time. I want you to choose which point you're going to start at. So you might want to do the same thing twice. You might decide that you want to always start the tune. Yes, you might decide that you always want to come second. It's entirely up to you. Okay? But I'm not going to sing, so you have to decide what you're going to do. Okay, have you made a decision? Excellent. Fab. So here we go. 2 more times. Don't forget that you have to wait for the other part in the middle, at the end of the first verse. If you're doing this first part, you might just have to wait a bit. Okay, I'll count you in. Here we go. So if you're starting, you've got 4 beats in. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're coming second, start now. Part 1 has got to every time he snores. Oh, Ebenezer. Second part does that. Oh. If you're starting first, start now. If you're starting second, start now. Ebenezer Sneezer. part 1. Part 2, even when it pours. Second part, oh, Ebenezer Waterman. Splendid. What a silly song. Okay, so I hope you got that okay. I hope you managed to work out which part you were going to do and stick to it. And there is a reason why we've done that today, and you'll find out in a few weeks' time. Okay, time for us to think about orchestras this week. So last week I was telling you about the Royal Albert Hall and concerts that were for the slightly more wealthy amongst the population. Yes, and hopefully you went and had a look at the Royal Albert Hall website, which is a mine of information and all about its 150th anniversary. I wonder whether you did happen to click on the little links to Albert's band, because I hope you did. We are going to be looking at each section of the orchestra over the next few weeks. So the orchestra is made up of 4 families basically, which are divided into sections. This week we're going to be looking at the string family, the string section. And I have sent through a little sheet for you to complete. So it gives you lots of facts about stringed instruments. There's a few little questions as well for you to fill in. So if you're doing this at home, it would be marvellous if you could do that at home and then bring it back to school when you come back next week. I'd be so pleased to see if you've managed to complete the sheets and get the answers right. So it just so happens that the stringed family is one of the instruments one of the families that I do play. And when I went to university, I learnt how to play one. I learnt how to play the violin, as well as doing singing, but the violin was my main instrument. So here you are. Here is a violin, a member of the string family. You can see why it's a member of the string family. It has strings. Now, in the 19th century, which is when we're looking at, isn't it? Yes. The violin had changed a little bit, and it had changed so that orchestras and the string section were able to be heard over the top of the enormous great wind instruments, the brass and all the oboes and things like that were used for these bigger orchestras for bigger pieces of music. So they had to change the violins because they were before that quite quiet. So they had to make the neck, this part is called the neck, they had to make that longer so that there were more notes to be able to be had. And this part as well, the fingerboard, this is called the fingerboard, and it's made out of ebony. It's a special, pretty tough piece of wood, because as you can see, there's a gap here between the body of the instrument and the fingerboard, and the strings go over the top of this thing called a bridge, which was also changed in the Victorian period. It was made higher and thinner, but it was also that it could increase the tension of the strings to make a louder sound, and so that we could play higher notes up here on the fingerboard. Okay, the other thing that was also introduced in Victorian times was this thing, which is called a chin rest, and it does what it says on the tin. When you put it up on your shoulder, you put your side of your chin on the chin rest, and it means that you can let go. You've got much more flexibility for playing those higher notes. You can imagine if you didn't have a nice curvy shape like this and you were just having to put your chin on the wood of the violin, on the body, it gets really uncomfortable, and you have to hold it really tightly, and your hand has to sort of hold it too. So actually my violin is from the Victorian period, just about. This was made in 18 96. Oh, it's over 100 years old now. But actually, the most famous and valuable violins in the world were made even older than that, even longer ago than that. The first violins that we know of that look a bit like this are from 1530. And the most expensive ones are from about 1600. So they'll be like 300 odd years old now. So you can play a stringed instrument in various ways, but the biggest, noisiest way to play it is with this thing, a bow that's made out of a curvy piece of wood and horsehair. And again, it's stretched really tightly like the strings so that it can bounce, so that it can make a good bouncy sound, and so that you've got a bit more flexibility of lots of different styles of bowing to make different expressions. The other thing that I want you to do this week is to watch the BBC 10 Pieces video about a very, very famous piece of music that we're going to be looking at, which explains, well, we'll be doing lots of things about it that explains the importance of the orchestra and composers in the Victorian period. If I play you this tune, you might know, you might have heard of it. Have you heard that tune before? That's the beginning of the piece that you're going to look at. It's by the most famous composer, Beethoven. It's called Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. You're going to be looking at the first section of it, and it is going to help us learn lots of different things about the orchestra and how to be a composer. While you're watching the film, I want you to answer 3 questions. Do you like it? Is it an interesting and informative film? 2, do you like the music? How does it make you feel? And 3, if you were to have the knowledge before you watch it that Beethoven, Ludwig van Beethoven, was pretty much totally deaf by the time he wrote this music. Yes, how do you think that would make him feel, or how on earth would it affect him being a composer and not being able to hear his own music played? So that's 2 things for you to do this week. Fill out your string quiz sheet and watch the BBC 10 Pieces clip video about Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. It could well be the most famous 4 notes in the whole world. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you next time for another family of instruments and some more musical activities. Take care of yourselves. Bye.